The apartment was silent. Too silent, it echoed the hollowness in my chest. 5 years. 5 years I'd poured my heart into this place, crafting a sanctuary that now felt like a tomb. I moved listlessly through the rooms, my touch lingering on surfaces I'd lovingly polished, each creak of the floorboard a lament. How could I have missed the signs? The tension in his silences, the guarded glances, the late-night texts that never quite revealed their secrets. His room was a battlefield, a war of wills where love was the casualty. I need space, he'd said. Not from me, not from the life we'd built together, but from love itself. Love, a foreign concept to him, a language he never learned. All those promises, those dreams we wove together, they meant nothing. It wasn't just me. He pushed everyone away, burying his emotions deep like a miser clutching gold coins, afraid to let anyone in. The kitchen, our kitchen, held memories in its tiles and crumbs. Where we shared our hopes over steaming cups of tea, he confided his fears. I held his hand, tracing the worry lines, promising him the dawn would bring clarity, but the sun rose and he slipped further into the shadows. He was losing himself in this cold fortress, and I couldn't reach him. Even the dog sensed the shift. Gus, usually a furry whirlwind of joy, wind, nudging my hand with his wet nose. My heart ached for both of us. The vet's words echoed, an anxious soul reflected an anxious pause. I wasn't alone in my turmoil, and suddenly the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with unspoken fears. I sat at the window, the glass cold under my cheek. The world outside went about its day, oblivious to the storm brewing within these four walls. Children laughed on their way to school, lovers strolled hand in hand, oblivious to the shadows lurking behind closed doors. They lived in a bubble of naivete, and maybe that was a luxury we couldn't afford. Looking at the faint rings on the tree, I traced their lives. He was 9 here, his arm around my waist as we planted it. Then 13, shyly holding my hand at the fall festival. And finally, 18. His face tilted up, a question mark etched between his brows. Each ring marked a stage in his life, a milestone in our shared journey. A knock on the door startled me. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. It was Mrs. Henderson from next door, her eyes filled with concern. I haven't seen your son in a while. Is everything all right? She asked gently. The facade I'd carefully constructed crumbled. No, I whispered, my voice cracking. Not everything. Not anymore. Her kind eyes held mine. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. A listening ear, a helping hand, she offered, her voice soft as down. I retreated to my son's room, surrounded by the ghosts of laughter. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating me with unspoken words and the weight of unanswered prayers. He'd chosen this room, painted it this shade of blue, the one he liked. In this corner, he'd built a fort, complete with a reading light. I remembered the gleam in his eye, the pride in his voice as he'd shown it to me. I sat on the edge of his bed, tracing the faded drawings on the walls. A sailboat, a dragon, a rocket ship. Each mark held a story, a dream, a wish whispered into existence. I closed my eyes, trying to summon the boy who'd inhabited this space, Was he lost forever, or was there a way to find him? I stumbled into the backyard, the overgrown grass a metaphor for my neglected heart. I remembered planting that tree with him, a sapling, small enough for me to hold, then watching it grow season after season until it stood as a testament to time's relentless march. Now it overshadowed me, its leaves rustling like secrets in the wind. Under its canopy, I'd nurtured dreams, hoping they'd take root. I'd envisioned him playing here, laughing, chasing butterflies with the innocence that marked youth. But now the only sound was the wind sighing through the leaves. I reached out, wanting to hold on to something tangible, some vestige of the life we'd envisioned. But all I found were dry leaves crunching under my fingers. I was left with the stark reality of unfulfilled hopes and the chilling silence of a sun lost. Days blurred into weeks, each one a torment of quiet. The apartment echoed with emptiness, devoid of laughter, devoid of life. The ticking clock on the wall mocked me. It kept perfect time with my despair. Meals grew cold on the stove, untouched symphonies of flavors that meant nothing without his presence. Television flickered in the background, its noise a dull roar, never rising above the din of my thoughts. Even sleep offered no respite, haunted by dreams of a son who no longer lived here. One rainy afternoon, I sat by the window watching the city draped in gray skies and muted colors. The rain mirrored the tears I'd cried, washing away hope with each drop. Suddenly, a flash of yellow broke through the monochrome scene. A yellow umbrella. I watched as a young man hurried across the street, his face shielded, yet a smile tugged at the corners of his lips. He reminded me of someone with eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, someone whose footsteps once echoed in this very apartment. My breath hitched. Could it be? Hope, fragile as a butterfly, fluttered in my chest. With trembling hands, I rushed to the door, each step a drumbeat against my resolve. When I opened the door, there he was. Time seemed to stop. "Daniel," I breathed. Relief washed over me, so potent it brought tears to my eyes. In that moment, the rain-streaked window, the gray skies, all faded into all that mattered was the sight before me, the reappearance of a son I thought I'd lost. He stood on my doorstep, an umbrella at his side, a hesitant smile on his face. The sight of him, the familiar tilt of his head, the questioning in his eyes, it stirred a tempest of emotions within me. Joy surged through me, hot and powerful, threatening to spill over. But I held back, allowing only a small smile to grace my lips. "Daniel, come in," I said, my voice catching slightly. The apartment, which had echoed with emptiness moments before, suddenly felt too small, brimming with the magnitude of emotions I hadn't known how to contain. He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. The umbrella slipped from his grasp, forgotten on the welcome mat. For a moment, we simply stood there, the weight of his absence pressing down between us. The silence, once deafening, now hummed with unspoken words and the promise of reconciliation. "Mom, he began, his voice tinged with hesitation, mirroring the turmoil in my own heart. "It's okay," I whispered, stepping forward, my arms outstretched. He didn't hesitate. He came to me, his embrace enveloping me. In that instant, the chill of loneliness receded, replaced by the warmth of his presence. The years of worry, of sleepless nights, they seemed to evaporate in his embrace. This was where I belonged, in the safe harbor of my son's embrace, where the storms of life couldn't reach me. I held him close, breathing in his familiar scent, a mixture of rain and the comforting aroma of home. And as I did, I whispered, "It's okay. We're together now." As the evening deepened, the rain outside intensified, drumming a steady rhythm against the window pane. Inside, however, a different melody played, the melody of a mother and son reunited, their bond strengthened by the trials they'd endured. We talked, we laughed, we cried, we shared stories of the months apart, each moment weaving a tapestry of understanding and forgiveness. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, not a neat little bow tied on a perfect life. Life, I knew, had more twists and turns in store for us. But as I tucked Daniel into his old bed that night, I realized something profound. Home wasn't a place, it was a feeling of belonging, acceptance, and most importantly, love. And I was home